Nancy Chitera, the University Registrar, Mr. Lloyd Kambwili, our keynote speaker, Professor Innocent Musonda, all the way from University of Johannesburg, South Africa, executive deans here present, and the conference chair, Associate Professor Ignacio Ngoma, invited guests, members of the press, representatives of the Students' Representative Council, and your president. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor this morning to welcome you to the 2026 School of Engineering Conference, which is being held under the theme Integrated Engineering Innovations for Industrialization and Sustainable Infrastructure. Before we commence everything this morning, allow me to invite Pastor Salima to come and open with a word of prayer, and thereafter we shall sing the MUBAS anthem. Pastor Salima.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we humbly come before your presence this morning to thank you for the gift of life that you have given unto us. Father, we gather this morning for one sole purpose, one reason for which there was known even before we were, that Jehovah, we may revolutionize the engineering industry in this country. We thank you and we bless you, Father God, for the men and women that are in this place, that are yearning, desiring to see a change for this nation. We revoke the spirits of the Berlin Conference. We refuse to be taken aback because of the colonial mentality. Father, we invoke that spirit which was in our fathers and grandfathers in those days when they desired this nation to stand alone on its feet and rise, as we say, Malawi. We thank and we bless you this morning, my Father. Give us wisdom, give us understanding, that by the end of this gathering, O God, we shall change our direction of thinking and of doing things, and Malawi shall be great again. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor Salima. May we now rise for the MUBAS anthem.
Transformative dynamic varsity.
At this point of time, allow me to invite the conference chairperson, Associate Professor Ignacio Ngoma, to give us an overview of the conference. Professor Ngoma.
Our guest of honor, Honorable Dr. Jean Matanga, MP, we are greatly honored to have you present today and give the remarks for this conference. Our Vice Chancellor, Associate Professor Nancy Chitera, our keynote speaker, Professor Innocent Msonda, the PS present with us today, our registrar, the Executive Dean of the School of Engineering, Executive Dean of the School of Built Environment, our sponsors, Ejenco, ESCOM, MACRA, and CIRA. We are honored to have you present with us today. And of course, MUBAS has also played the role. Our authors present here, the industry captains, professors, staff, students, and others who have come from elsewhere to participate in this conference. Honorable Minister, I just want a brief background current preparations of this conference. As School of Engineering, we are having these conferences annually. This is our third conference. We have managed to ensure that the publications from this conference are produced, and therefore we have a website where we deposit these ones so that those who may have missed the conference but are interested in what transpired can be able to access those documents. This conference is aired online, so I believe that those who are interested in taking the country forward through engineering innovations are listening to us today. For this conference, we have a number of papers, and the papers have come from across the globe. We have papers from Qatar, England, and of course, as you probably rightly noted, our keynote speaker as presented is coming from University of Johannesburg, South Africa. We have tried to get keynote speakers from outside Malawi so that we can crossbreed ideas to ensure that as Africa, we have Agenda 2063 as Africa, but also Malawi 2063, to ensure that we are all on the same line to ensure that as Africa, we can see a new horizon. As I said, the papers cover a number of areas, so I think covering a lot of scope. We do have issues of water supply and sanitation. We have energy. We have construction. And of course, the construction, I think you know, Mr. that currently coming from engineering, it's good that we are here because a number of issues, even supply of electricity, we have had some challenges, and we believe that they have come in the open. They have said, what is MUBAS doing? Those have been the discussions. So the papers have covered all of those areas. In this program, you have seen that there is a slot for a launch of a journal from the School of Engineering. This one is also critical because we believe that as a school, as MUBAS, there are a number of activities taking place here. And we believe that we can showcase them through journals. People have difficult traveling, but with the technology, cloud, and others, people can access documents from across the globe. My task was mainly to introduce the executive of the school to speak to the school. Then the others, James will take care, but otherwise, ED, it's your turn to speak. Thank you very much, honorable guest.
Thank you very much. Guest of honor, Honorable Dr. Jean Matanga, MP, Minister of Energy and Mining, our Vice Chancellor, Associate Professor Nancy Chitera, the keynote speaker, Professor Innocent Musonda, the Principal for Energy and Mining, Mr. Elvis Todi, the Registrar, the officiating clergy, Pastor Salima, the chairperson of the Conference Organizing Committee, our Engineer Associate Professor Ignacio Ngoma, CEOs and their representatives here present, from different companies, the Executive Dean of the School of Built Environment, Engineer Witness Kuocha, members of the management team here present, representatives of conference sponsors here present, members, before I come to members, heads of departments, both academic and non-academic, members of staff, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I hope you are excited as I am. Guests of honor, firstly, I would like to welcome you in a very special way to this conference. And I also welcome all the delegates who are gathered here. It is a very great honor to have you, Honorable Minister. You have elevated the profile of our conference quite a lot. We really appreciate. I'm really overjoyed to witness this momentous occasion. This is a journey that whose plans were hatched in 2023. That's when we envisioned that we needed to have the School of Engineering Conference. And the first conference, Honorable Minister, took place in 2024. It was in May. It happens that most of these are taking place in May for some obvious reasons. And then in 2025, we had the second one. And it's quite amazing to see that we migrated from saying we are having an inaugural conference. Now here we are talking of having the third conference. This is quite enlightening, quite heartwarming that we have gone this far. This year's conference theme, as the chairperson of the organizing committee indicated, the theme is Integrated Engineering Innovations for Industrialization and Sustainable Infrastructure. When we are talking of sustainability, we are looking at taking care of the current needs without jeopardizing the future or the rationale of the future generations. And you see from the theme, guests of honor and delegates, the theme is speaking to the government agenda, the Malawi development agenda. Malawi 2063 is also speaking to the global agenda, the sustainable development goals. And of course, it's also speaking to our own vision. The vision of the MUBAS is that we should be an inclusive. So there's an element of inclusivity. We should be engaged, and we should be entrepreneurial. We should be innovative, and we should also be a research-intensive university. So this theme is speaking pretty well to the vision and also the strategic plan of the university. This conference has attracted students, industry leaders, and researchers from Malawi and beyond. The chairperson of the organizing committee has already talked about what the conference is all about, so I will not talk about that. But suffice to say that this is a very special conference ever since we had the inaugural conference in 2024. Maybe guests of honor and delegates, you may be wondering what makes this so special. Maybe you're already guessing. Yeah. Firstly, this is the very first one to have a very high ranking member of the executive arm of government to grace. Are you not excited? Yes. And of course, it's not just an executive member of the of government, but somebody who has accomplished quite a lot in the domain of governance. Those of you who are doing research, you go and research, you see what she has accomplished. She has accomplished quite a lot, and we are happy to be associated with you, Honorable Minister, and the delegates. I would like to welcome you to this conference, and at the same time, we want to ask you actually to feel very much at home, even as we are having here hosting the guest of honor. Another point of importance about this conference that is so special, for the first time, we'll be having a side event that is the launch of the School of Engineering Journal. This is a journal of advancements in engineering, science, and technology. The acronym is JIST. That is another point. And we've also got a prolific keynote speaker in the name of Professor Innocent Musonda, who also happens to be the external examiner for the Civil Engineering Department. So it's a great conference, and I think everything that is happening in this conference will go in the history, in the annals of the School of Engineering as a great milestone. Guests of honor and delegates, let me briefly talk about the School of Engineering so that you appreciate at least a bit of what the School of Engineering is all about. The School of Engineering has got 4 departments, and these are mechanical engineering, mining engineering, electrical engineering, and civil engineering. Let me delve a bit more into the mining engineering and also the other departments, and also talk about a few issues of importance which may put everything in perspective. The mining engineering department is hosting 4 undergraduate degree programs. These are mining, that is Bachelor of Mining Engineering, and all programs in the school that are 5-year honors degree programs. So we've got mining engineering, we've got metallurgy and mineral processing, we have geological engineering, and we also have petroleum engineering. Petroleum engineering is the most recent. Actually, the first cohort is coming this August, which has got 16 students. You need to begin small. You need to bite a little and see how it goes, whether you are able to chew, then you can bite more. So as we begin, we'll have 16 students who are coming this August. And there are also 3 diplomas which are hosted by this department. Let me quickly move to the Department of Mechanical Engineering. This department hosts 4 degree programs and 3 diploma programs and a number of postgraduate programs. So the undergraduate degree programs include energy engineering, industrial engineering, automobile engineering, and also in mechanical engineering. That's the generic mechanical engineering. We also have the Department of Civil Engineering, which hosts 3, actually now we've added the 4th one, 4 degree programs. We have got a generic Bachelor of Civil Engineering, and then we also got 3 which are being phased out, so that we remain with this one, generic one. And the ones that are being phased out are Bachelor of Civil Engineering Structures, then also got water and transportation. The whole idea came from the engagements with industry. Industry leaders thought that as we're doing curriculum review, it was proper to have one undergraduate degree program in civil engineering, so that when the industry gets the graduates, they should be all-rounders. Then the specializations now come at postgraduate, where we have Master of Civil Engineering, which has got 5 specializations. The 3 that are being phased out, as well as that is construction management and geotechnical engineering. There are also a number of postgraduate degree programs. I will not belabor you guests of honor with all that, but let me finally move to the Department of Electrical Engineering. It's a big department. It's hosting 4 undergraduate degree programs. That is Electrical and Electronics Engineering, Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, Electronics and Computer Engineering, and Biomedical Engineering. They also have a number of postgraduate degree programs. And of importance, especially to your ministry, guest of honor, is that there are 3 postgraduate programs that relate so much to energy, and they are co-hosted co-hosted by the Mechanical Engineering and Electrical Engineering departments. These are Master of Science in Sustainable Energy, Master of Philosophy in Sustainable Energy, and Doctor of Philosophy in Sustainable Energy. Before I wind up, allow me to delve deeper into mining. I know, Honorable Minister, maybe part of your heart, or maybe a greater part of your heart is in that. So it may be worth mentioning that the Mining Engineering Department has got labs. These labs have got capacity to carry a number of tests and activities related to mineral exploration. And above all, it is in the process of being accredited now with the SADC accreditation services. That will ensure that the lab is put on the global map, global scale, so that most of the tests in Malawi and those which were supposed to be done outside, they can be done right here. So that process is taking place with this organization, as well as the Malawi Bureau of Standards. The tests that can be done here involve geochemical analysis and also soil and rock analysis. For your information, guests of honor and delegates, the Mpatamanga hydropower project, there are soil tests as well as rock tests were done by our lab right here in the mining department. It's actually right down here at the basement. We hope that, God willing, you have the grace another time you come for a fully-fledged tour of the campus, and you'll be able to appreciate, to see. So we've also got capacity to do groundwater exploration, mineral explorations, gemstone identification, cutting, and polishing. We do several surveys to do with resistivity, magnetic using drones and also radiographic. And it's our wish that we get 2 or 3 more critical equipment which will make this lab really very self-contained, so that even the geochemical analysis that involves the determination of the quantity of the mineral in the ore will be determined with precision. So that's what we're working on, and under the leadership of our Vice Chancellor, we are actually trying to reach out and collaborate with relevant institutions which have shown interest so that they can actually help. So when that one is done, guest of honor, then we'll be talking of externalizing the samples for testing for the sake of exploration to be a thing of the past. We want to save our hard-earned forex, because we need the forex. You agree with me, anyone that is patriotic about our country, it pains when you see our minerals, they get externalized in the name of exploration, in the name of testing. But when we have this critical equipment, one of them, of course, involve the purification of gold, because the one that we have right now is a very small one. It's not for industrial scale, which is down. It's just for student teaching and learning. But we want to get this industrial scale. Then I think we'll contribute very meaningfully to the development of our country. So, Honorable Minister, with what I've said, you see that you are at the right place. And I think on behalf of the School of Engineering, I can see my heads of departments are right here. I will not be wrong to say that the Honorable Minister is given the freedom of the School of Engineering. Anytime she can just walk in. So as I wind up, guests of honor, you may also wish to know that we have a number of collaborations with the industry. Of particular importance is ESCOM. We are engaged in a joint collaboration, a research on battery energy storage systems. And we also have collaborations with the other universities in Malawi, like Rwanda, Mzuni, and abroad also in Rwanda, as well as the United Kingdom, University of Cardiff, Liverpool. We've got those research collaborations so that we can enrich our research capacity and have that cross-fertilization of information and knowledge. At this juncture, allow me to give special votes of thanks. It doesn't do any harm to repeat vote of thanks to the guests of honor. We really thank you so much. It's a great honor for us that you are here. I would also like to thank the keynote speaker, our sponsors, MACRA. May I see maybe by a show of hand whether we have MACRA in our midst? Oh, great. Great. A round of applause for our sponsor. ESCOM. Brilliant. Yes, madam. It's good to see you again. Sira. I know I saw Mr. Gideon, Lyford Gideon yesterday and the team, but they are here. They're here and we are really grateful. Ijenko? Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. And of course, I will not ask her to stand. She's done quite a lot in silence. Sometimes we don't appreciate our own Vice Chancellor has supported this conference so much, and even the previous ones. A round of applause, please. She would have chosen to say, well, no, I think you have to fend for yourselves. You are grown up, makula mata. But she didn't do that. She's been very supportive. We want you to appreciate, Vice Chancellor, that we see your efforts in the driving of the mandate of the school, even under the strategic plan of the university. I would also like to thank the organizing committee chairperson, Engineer Associate Professor Ignacio Ngoma, and your team. I think for these ones, I'll ask them to stand. Alice Kayange, Charity Matola, if you can, yes. Alice is at the back. You saw the chairperson here. Yes, and the rest, I think we've got support staff that have been key to this, including our own administrative assistants, and also the heads of department. They have done a great job. So I'd like to appreciate that one. And the school journal committee led by Professor Grant Kurulanga. You see Professor Grant Kurulanga coming in a moment. Thank you so much. We appreciate Professor for leading the team that was planning and all the way to the realization of the School of Engineering Journal. A round of applause for Professor Kurulanga. I'm sure where he is, he's very happy because this one has been his brainchild, and he has been very passionate about it. He's been working like a young man throughout, running up and down. I've never seen him running like that. You know, he was very serious about it. And of course, I think I would have failed on my role if I did not thank the students. MUBAS Hua. Yes, I know you are in now. I know you are in. Why I'm so thankful is because it's not only that you are our students, but this is time of holiday, but you have managed to come in your large numbers. You can pat yourself at the back. Yes. You have done great. So I urge all members of staff in the school and students to do research and publish, because publishing is what keeps the university on the map, on the global rankings, apart from other things. So I would like to urge academic members especially that we must rise up to the challenge to publish. We have got a journal, we have got this conference, we look forward to having papers that can be published in these. And the heartwarming thing is that good papers that will be presented at this conference and those which were presented in the previous conferences will be upgraded and published in the journal, our own journal. And those who are presenting today, I would like to commend you for the great work. And I would like to request that you don't relent, you don't sit down, you keep the fire burning. Let me quote a very well-known, I hope, saying or proverb from Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. You know, there was this bird, those of you who have read Things Fall Apart, like me. One bird which was called Eneke. This bird was very clever. It learned that men had learned to shoot without missing. You know, when do you shoot? Those of you who have used a catapult, you normally shoot a bird when it has perched, right? So those archers, those who are using arrows to shoot, they would have an advantage to aim and shoot when it has perched. So this bird, it learned that men had learned to shoot without missing. It decided to fly without perching. That's what the message I want to push to you, to say don't relent, keep the fire burning. Don't be discouraged if there are not many people taking that route, because that's the way to go. Keep the fire burning, be vigilant. It's my sincere hope that all of us will be engaged with presenters so that we have a productive and lively conference, and that research findings and innovations shall be put into practice to stimulate industrialization and enhance sustainable infrastructure. The duty to develop this country with the onus is on us. We say it requires concerted efforts. I believe, and the School of Engineering believes, that we can't leave the development to our country on, and we must own any challenge that our country faces, because the solution is with us. And you students who are here, take this as a mentorship platform for learning and also for getting challenged on the journey that is lying ahead of you. Guests of honor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, relax and feel at home as you take part in this conference. I thank you so much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Dean. Another big round of applause for Professor Barnett Mkandawire. Honorable Minister Zosake Sabona, this conference comes at a time when barely a week, MUBAS also held the very first Technology Transfer Officers Seminar, and it was held under the theme, Strengthening Innovation Ecosystems. And if you look at innovation, and as the previous speaker mentioned, innovation is one of our pillars, which is to innovate, generate, and what's the other one? Create. I'm trying to bring this to attention because I know one of the very priorities of the government is innovation and skills development. Just a couple of months ago, MUBAS again launched the Agriculture Mechanization Unit. The message you should take back, Honorable Minister, if we were to give a title to MUBAS, and the Chichiwa one precisely, mukati nene kuti MUBAS ndi bwenzi la boma pachitukuko. MUBAS huwa, how much practice yourself, eh? Now, allow me to invite Professor Grant Kululanga to give us an overview of the engineering journal. A big hand for Professor Kululanga. As the Executive Dean said, he's one passionate man when it comes to promoting innovation under engineering. Professor Kululanga.
Dr. Jane Matanga, who is also Member of Parliament for Malawi. Let me also recognize the Vice Chancellor, Associate Professor Nancy Chitela, and the Registrar who are amongst us. Let me also take this opportunity to recognize the Executive Dean of Engineering, Engineer Associate Professor Barnett Mkandawire. I also know there are a number of executive deans that are here, including heads of departments. Let me also recognize the keynote speaker from University of Johannesburg in South Africa, Professor Innocent Msonda, who is also an external examiner in the School of Engineering, particularly the Department of Civil Engineering. Let me take this opportunity to also recognize the guests, the distinguished guests that have come from Malawi and abroad to participate in this conference. Allow me to end my salutation by recognizing the fourth estate, the media, who are also with us, otherwise all protocols observed. This morning, Honorable Minister and guest of honor, I just want to give a short synopsis of a journey of advancements in engineering. The School of Engineering has a journal. This particular journal is not any other kind of a journal. It's a special journal. Why it is a special journal? It's because it's intended to solve real problems that we face into this country. And as such, it's not just exercising academic ingenuity, prolific writing, but are we going to solve the real issues of the economy, the real issues, challenges that Malawi, Africa, and the world are facing? This is the journal that we are talking about this morning. Therefore, research only changes society when knowledge is shared. The very essence why we have universities and research institutions is to make sure that we solve the needs of the community. If we are in a university, a beautiful university, without doing this real core issue for the nation, we are just an ivory tower to be decorated by paint, glasses, and so on. But out there, what people are looking for are solutions to address real challenges that they are facing. As such, this is why it is important to share knowledge. And how do you share knowledge? This is one particular forum where knowledge should be shared. But in particular, a journal stands out to share this knowledge because there it is tested so that the industry, the academic, are not fooled by the ideas we put, but they are tested that they can yield solutions out there. So, for this particular journal of advancements in engineering, science, and technology, it is peer-reviewed for the purpose that what we put in the journal will not hurt industry. It will not mislead academia, but it will be progressive in solving various solutions, solving various challenges that we are facing in this world. Guest of honor, this journal has a vision statement and a mission statement, just as any other organization or movement would want to have a path through which they want to achieve and the means by which they should get to that particular point. So the journal has its vision statement and the mission statement, and the reason why we have these is to make sure that we interface very well with the vision and mission statement for the university itself. It is there to promote research excellence for this university. And as such, I would later on invite you, when you go to the website, to read it critically. Otherwise, I'm just giving a synopsis of the journal that we have here. Why this journal matters. The reason why this journal matters, there are a number of reasons, but I've just selected critical issues that are facing Malawi, facing Africa, but also facing the world. So the major challenges requiring evidence-based solutions, emphasizing evidence-based solutions, is the fact that what we put in the paper, the issues that we are researching, we are promising the community out there that they are going to work. They are not going to try them, but they will yield solutions. And as such, we face issues of industrial innovations. Even in Malawi, we can have innovations. There are a number of innovations in the lab there, just sitting. There are a number of innovations in Africa, a number of innovations that are happening in many areas of Malawi. We need to bring them to the fore. The issues of climate change. Most of the roads now are being rehabilitated because they never considered issues of climate change. And connected to many other things that I don't have time to lecture on this particular issue. Everything today is being digitalized. Things that we used in the 1960s, 1950s, those who lived during that time, every gadget now has been transformed. What has changed is not the engine, the backbone, but the addition of digitalization, transforming it so that it can make life easier. And the issues of infrastructure, energy crisis, sources of energy that should be developed to enhance what Africa already has, food security, and also the issue of waste management. How can we transform it so that it becomes useful for Africa, for Malawi, and the world? The key features of the journal and why it makes it distinct is because it's a peer-reviewed scholarly publication. As I already pointed out, we want something that doesn't hurt industry. When they consume the information that we have put in the paper, it should yield results, not a winding up of companies or misguided philosophies or theories that confuse academia to the extent that no real issues come out from such research. The focus of the research indeed must be solution-oriented. And engineering is not just core engineering. We have a number of issues that come from allied disciplines, communication, business, and so on, for as long as they touch into issues of engineering. The goal is to provide solutions for our nations. We are indeed committed to integrity because journals, papers published in journals have do a number of things for the university itself, people getting promoted through publications, but also the fact that the industry should not be hurt, and therefore the peer review process must be complete and thorough and characterized by integrity and highest standards of ethical discipline in publications that will be followed through this journal. The process will be transparent. We shall invite auditors in the world to audit our editorial processes that happen for this journal so that we are on the map and that what we do will indeed impact the community. It will be an access, it will be an open access journal, basically, to remove barriers so that the sources of information, what people have published, what people have put in the journal, can be accessed by students, researchers, policymakers, and the community worldwide, so that the knowledge can accelerate. There are a number of benefits associated with that stance of access. As my executive dean elaborated earlier this morning, the issue is also to make sure that we are relevant at home. There are journals out there that only focus in Europe. They focus in Asia. But they are African journals and have no impact in their own country. No other nation has developed from resources from other countries because they always have interests. But we need to do it ourselves. There need to be a paradigm shift as we begin to move into this journey. So we embrace the industrialization agenda, we embrace the sustainable development goals to make sure that we are relevant. So just journal, JIST as it is called, offers publication opportunities for academic and professionals, visibility for local innovations, international research collaboration, capacity building for young researchers, increased research dissemination. So this is the opportunity that this conference is witnessing the launch, which will be done by the minister, that we have something out there that can impact Malawi, Africa, and the world. Certainly, we want to make MUBAS the center of excellence in research. And one aspect that will make this is through this particular journal, because it will not just publish ordinary things, but things that we can follow how they have impacted Malawi and Africa. And as such, in the MUBAS mission, its strategy, one of the issues is to create journals through its schools so that we can impact the nation. A nation that invests in research invests in its future. The launch of JIST is not merely the introduction of a journal. It is the establishment of a platform for ideas, innovations, and transformation. So together, we'll build knowledge, not from just the engineering core. Together, we'll shape solutions to address the challenges out there. And together, we advance Malawi and Africa. Honorable Minister, Vice Chancellor, and all protocols observed, I want to thank you for this opportunity on behalf of engineering to give a synopsis of JIST, or Journal of Advancement in Engineering, Science and Technology, for which the minister later is going to launch. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Grant Kulanga. At this point of time, our guest of honor, I would like to invite the next speaker, right, after the introduction of our journal, the Executive Dean of the School of Engineering, Professor Barrett Nkandawire, has got a few remarks to make in connection to the very same presentation that was made earlier. Professor Nkandawire.
Guests of honor and all protocols observed, I just want to make one quick announcement, and take it as a commercial break. I'll put some people here on the spotlight. I think they were not really ready for it, but I thought it would really be a disservice if I don't recognize one particular person, because I know when the guest of honor comes, keynote speaker comes, guest of honor comes, then my mouth is completely shut. Mr. Charity Muhango, can you please stand? I know I've put her on the spotlight. This lady has worked so hard. She's our head of marketing. And your team, do you have your team here? Yes, I thought I should really, I didn't warn you in advance, but I thought I needed to acknowledge Banali and your team. Know that we really appreciate the great work that you have done. I don't know what time they slept. At one point, I popped in here yesterday. I said, I think I need to bring you some blankets. Thank you so much. Distinguished guests, honored ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Another big round of applause for the team that has made all this to be possible. The next gentleman to take the podium is someone who holds a PhD in engineering management. He's got a couple of qualifications in construction management and civil engineering. He is what is called a C2 NRF rated researcher in South Africa, a professional registered civil engineer in Zambia, a construction manager in South Africa. He is also a chartered construction manager with the Institute of Building, CIOB, United Kingdom, and a member of the International Council for Research and Innovation in Building and Construction, CIB. He serves on the Thought Leadership Advisory Council, TLAC, of the Project Management Institute, PMI Global. He is a full professor of construction, project management, a researcher, an invited speaker, and the founder and director of the Center for Applied Research and Innovation in the Built Environment. And he is based at the University of Johannesburg in South Africa. And his research, guest of honor, ladies and gentlemen, focuses on digitalization, sustainability, and safety in the built environment. Join me in welcoming to the podium Professor Innocent Musonda from the University of Johannesburg, South Africa. The floor is yours, sir.
Can go behind. Can it go? I think you have to help me. Honorable Minister, Honorable Dean, Dr. Jean Matanga, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Nancy Chitera, the Executive Dean, Engineer Associate Bennett Kandawire, the Conference Chairperson, Engineer Associate Professor Ignacio Ngoma, Program Director. Colleagues, can I just request that I stand on the protocol that has already been established? Good morning. So it's a great honor for me to stand before you today to reflect on a subject that is deeply technical, but also profoundly human. And you would have heard already references to the work that engineers do, being right at the center of humanity. So it's about the future of infrastructure. So infrastructure is not merely concrete, steel, pipes, roads, dams, or indeed bridges and buildings. Infrastructure is a physical expression of society's ambition. It is how we move people. It is how we power industries and how we deliver water, education, health. In fact, how we deliver dignity and create opportunities as well as foster economic transformation. You have heard it said, when infrastructure works, society works as well. When infrastructure fails, the consequences are not just engineering consequences. They become economic consequences. They become social as well as political consequences. They become, in essence, human consequences. That is why the theme of this keynote, as you have seen there, I've termed it the systems imperative: engineering, resilient, and sustainable infrastructure. So it's not only an engineering theme when you think about it, it is a development theme. It is a governance theme. It is a public interest theme. And most importantly, it is a call to rethink how we prepare our engineers, Vice Chancellor, for the future. So I had Prof. Grant Kululanga refer to the infrastructure deficit. Colleagues, Africa's infrastructure challenge is widely known. According to the African Union Commission and the OECD, Africa requires between 130 and 170 billion dollars every single year to close what's referred to as the deficit. That's a staggering number. By the way, I also question this deficit. Who defines the deficit? What does that deficit entail? But that's a story for another day. But for many years, this figure has shaped how we speak about infrastructure. We often say Africa needs more investment. We need more roads. We need more power stations, more ports, more water systems. In fact, recently, we've heard that we need more digital infrastructure and more schools. And all this, of course, is true. We do need all this. We do need more hospitals and more transport networks. But today I want to suggest that this is only part of the story. The more difficult question for us, especially as engineers, is not only how much infrastructure do we need to build. The deeper question is, how do we ensure that the infrastructure we build continues to perform, adapt, integrate, and sustain value over time? Because infrastructure that cannot be maintained is not truly sustainable. In fact, my definition of sustainable infrastructure is that it should be able to perform or function for the entirety of its design life. So if it is not able to do that, then it's not sustainable. So infrastructure that cannot adapt is not truly resilient. Infrastructure that is not integrated into the wider socio-economic environment system will eventually underperform, even if I dare say it was technically well designed. So my opening proposition is this: Africa is not suffering from a lack of infrastructure, nor indeed infrastructure investment. Africa is suffering from Africa's infrastructure system, that often fail to sustain value over its lifetime. That is the diagnosis that I would like us to examine today. For many decades, the engineering profession has been celebrated for its ability to build. We have built dams, we have built roads, airports, bridges, you name it. These achievements do matter, and we want to celebrate that because they remain central to development. But the challenge before us is changing. Today, the challenge is no longer simply whether we can build infrastructure. We have demonstrated that. It is whether we can build infrastructure that performs reliably under stress. Infrastructure that can be able to withstand climate change, that can support industrialization, that can save the rapidly growing cities of our continent, infrastructure that can be maintained within the limited fiscal resources that we have. We've heard quite a bit about safeguarding the forex so that it doesn't go. The resources are limited, so how do we manage our infrastructure systems around that? The infrastructure that continues delivering value across generations, not just our generation. This means, therefore, we must shift from a narrow construction mindset to a broader systems performance mindset. Africa is urbanizing at a speed and scale that will define the future of this century. It's both exciting as well as scary at another level, and a stress to our infrastructure. You will notice that out of the 13 of the 20 most populated cities on the continent by the year 2100, 13 of those are going to be in Africa. And Malawi will contribute 2 of those cities as projected. That is Blantyre as well as Lilongwe. So cities such as Lagos, Kinshasa, Dar es Salaam, Nairobi, Lilongwe, Blantyre, and my own city, Lusaka, will become major centers of population, production, movement, consumption, and innovation. But urbanization places pressure on infrastructure systems. Existing roads become congested, water systems become overloaded, electricity grids become unstable, sanitation systems struggle to cope. Informal settlements grow faster than planning systems can be able to respond. Public transport demand increases. Solid waste volumes, as you've seen, rise dramatically. And of course, digital connectivity will become essential. And governments are forced to deal with 2 pressures at the same time: maintaining the old infrastructure and also expanding on the new infrastructure. Now, this is what I call the dual infrastructure burden. You cannot forsake either one of them. So it's not enough to build new infrastructure. We must sustain the old one as well. So this infrastructure burden is intensified, you heard from Prof. Kurulanga earlier on, by climate change. Climate change is no longer a future risk. We have experienced it right here in Malawi. We know how it feels. It is already shaping how infrastructure performance works at floods, damaged roads, bridges, infrastructure. Droughts equally place pressure on the water systems, agriculture, hydropower, and the urban supply networks. They all get affected. The extreme heat affects roads. Storms and changing rainfall patterns also expose weaknesses in terms of design standards and land use planning, maintenance systems, as well as emergency preparedness. This means, colleagues, infrastructure can no longer be designed only for yesterday's climate. It must be designed for uncertainty. It must be designed for adaptation, and it must be designed for resilience. And resilience, I suggest, is not merely the strength of a structure. It is the ability of an entire system, not in isolation, to absorb the shocks and be able to recover and continue serving the community. On the other hand, we have got the aging infrastructure. Okay, now, this is another part of the challenge that we face. Many of you would have seen or read about these images you're seeing. That's a road in Johannesburg, Blantyre, right in the center, where the gas tunnel exploded and killed at least one person. The entire street. On the right hand, it's a footbridge that fell on its own without warning. Luckily, nobody died or nobody got injured. But this is infrastructure that has urged and can no longer hold. And many developing countries, including those in Africa, have historically focused heavily just on expansion of infrastructure and not taking care of the older infrastructure. Of course, that emphasis is understandable. We heard about the deficit. The need is urgent. Populations are growing. Economies require connectivity. Communities need services. However, in many cases, we have invested more in building infrastructure than in managing infrastructure across its lifestyle, across its life cycle. So this creates a large stock of assets that eventually require rehabilitation, modernization, replacement, as well as renewal. But often there are no sufficient maintenance reserves. There is limited asset data. I question, for example, why should we not have, before time, known the date the bridge was going to collapse, or at least fail? In this day and age, we should be able to predict. The problem is we do not have that kind of asset data, and hence digitalization. There are weak condition monitoring systems. There are inadequate institutional arrangements for life cycle management, and maintenance is frequently postponed until failure becomes visible. The problem with deferred maintenance is that it rarely disappears. In fact, it doesn't disappear at all. It compounds. A small maintenance issue becomes a rehabilitation problem, and a rehabilitation problem becomes a replacement problem, and it goes on and on. The cheapest infrastructure is not always the one with the lowest initial cost. It is the one that delivers reliable value across its whole life. If Africa is to industrialize, and that's where Malawi wants to be, infrastructure must perform at a higher level. Industrialization increases demand for energy, for example, transport, water, logistics, digital networks. But industrialization It does not require new infrastructure per se. It also increases utilization of the existing infrastructure. Higher utilization means faster deterioration. It increases maintenance requirements. It means much higher life cycle costs. And if these life cycle costs are not planned for, infrastructure becomes a constraint rather than an enabler of industrialization. So a failure in one system quickly becomes and affects another. Energy failure leads to industrial downtime. Transport congestion leads to supply chain disruption. Digital failure interrupts smart production systems. And you will have experienced this already, the amount of work that you need to do gets slowed down when connectivity is very poor. So no power system functions alone. You realize there is no digital platform that functions alone. The performance of each depends on the performance of others. At this point, one might say, then the solution is obvious. We just need more new infrastructure. We need more funding. We need better technology, in fact. And we need to do a little bit more and better stakeholder engagement, because those are the issues we have been pushing. But I want to suggest that these are not in themselves sufficient. They are necessary inputs, make no mistakes, but they do not automatically produce resilient and sustainable infrastructure systems. This is the false assumption we must confront. We assume that if funding is available, infrastructure will perform. We assume that if technology is available, systems will improve. We assume that if stakeholders are consulted just a little bit more, then implementation will succeed. But experience tells me that this is not always the case. Funding without good systems can be wasted. Technology without institutional integration can fail. Stakeholder engagement, in fact, without meaningful coordination, can become ceremonial. Engineering design without life cycle thinking can just create long-term liabilities. So the real question is not only whether we have resources. For me, the real question is whether we have the systems capability to convert the resources that we have into long-term infrastructure value. I was just so honored this morning to be in the presence of the Honorable Minister and the Vice Chancellor. And one of the key issues that the Minister mentioned was the need to collaborate with another department for the betterment of the country. And that's what we need to maximize the resources that we have. This push towards just getting more and for Africa to get more just continues to put us into debt. And I love the prayer this morning that we should be looking inwards. Because what this narrative has done, and now I'm veering off the speech, is to put us in a corner where we continue to depend on others. And yet in and ourselves, we can achieve more. Just look at the numbers. The response to this false assumption is that we actually do have all the resources we need. Funding is not a problem. Africa often looks outward for infrastructure financing. External funding remains important, of course, and we should seek out to our partners to support us. And development finance, of course, has a major role to play. But Africa also holds significant internal capital that remains underutilized. Think about the pension funds, the sovereign wealth funds, insurance reserves, and national development banks all represent potential sources of infrastructure finance. We don't have to look outside. By 2023, I read that the diaspora, okay, and I'm thinking about what's happening in South Africa right now, but the diaspora in 2023 in remittances contributed about $100 billion to their home countries. Now think about that, $100 billion, far exceeding the foreign direct investment that came to Africa, almost by half. So if we're able to support our colleagues that are abroad and making the environment suitable for them to send money here, the infrastructure that we need can actually be met. Just about 5% of all the pension funds that we have on the continent can contribute about $17 billion per year. We have the resources, colleagues, and we need to continue, or at least begin to look inwards. So some estimates suggest that even a small allocation of African pension assets, as I indicated, 5%, could mobilize billions of dollars annually for infrastructure. So the challenge is not simply that capital does not exist. That's a false assumption. The challenge is how to structure the projects, the institutions, the governance systems, as well as the risk frameworks that we have. In other words, finance is not just a money problem. It is a systems problem. Capital follows confidence. Confidence follows governance, and governance follows institutional capability. Institutional capability, of course, follows systems thinking. I want to suggest as well that technology is not a problem. Technology is available. I witnessed firsthand what is being done at the Uniport. Technology is not a problem. I don't even have to spend time on that issue. We have all the resources that we need. Maybe what I can just say about that is technology fails when it's not integrated or when the systems are not integrated. An experience that I had last year is about the photo that I'm showing you there. We installed and created a digital twin for a water pump station. The proof of concept worked well. After 1 month, we stopped receiving the data and we asked why. The whole system was not integrated to the man. And some of the colleagues felt threatened and exposed, and they removed the sensors that we installed on the pumps and cut off their income, and that whole thing never worked. So technology only fails when it is not properly integrated. Otherwise, we have the technology that we need here. The real problem for me, I think, is that of context blindness. This brings me to what I believe is one of the most serious but under-recognized problems in infrastructure development, which is context blindness. By context blindness, I mean a condition where professionals may understand individual technical details, but fail to adequately understand the broader system in which those details operate. They may understand the road, but not the logistics system. They may understand the building, and they can design it very well, but not the maintenance regime. They may understand the digital tools that they are using, but not the institutional capabilities that are there. And in fact, they may understand the design code, but not the social and environmental context within the infrastructure must function. It occurs when we import universal models without adapting them to local realities. Let me just give a few examples of that. There are roads that are built without logistics integration, water systems built without the maintenance systems, digital systems that are introduced at the project to implemented without the governance systems behind it, infrastructure delivered without a whole life cycle management strategy. So they are merely technical failures, and they are very costly. Context blindness does not happen by accident. It is produced by fragmentation, by life cycle disconnect, disciplinary silos. That's a term that we had this morning as well, that we must stop working in silos, but rather collaborate. It's caused by technocratic thinking and over-reliance on generic models, the British standard and the other standards, without repurposing them for ourselves. In fact, it is introduced by weak systems thinking. So the complexity of modern infrastructure requires engineers who can understand the interdependencies, the institutions, users, finance, governance, data, climate, all the issues that we are talking about, including operations and the long-term asset value that is there. So the engineer of the future should be one that can be able to ask, can this be designed? Can this be maintained? Can this adapt? In fact, can this facility save the communities? Can this remain useful 30, 40, 50 years to come? That's what we must be thinking about. One of the other contributing factors to the context blindness is how we teach, unfortunately, and how we train. I looked at some of the curricula in the Southern Africa region, in Africa, actually, in the engineering field and the built environment, and realized that of all of these, the focus of training is mainly around how we design and build. And we do not teach, or there is not great emphasis on the initial phase, the preparation of the projects, the concept of the project, the systems, as well as on how we should maintain and manage, in fact, understand the end of life of a facility. There is far less attention given to operations, maintenance, rehabilitation, and the like. That's also the case with the engineering councils. The engineering councils, as you see as well, when they request engineers for registration, require competence, the focus is on the design and construction. There is very weak assessment when it comes to strategic planning. For the registration council, and I'm talking about the regional one, the EXAs and the council around here that subscribe to the Washington Accord and the like, moderate in strategic. But equally, you see from operations, maintenance, rehabilitation, and in fact, just the whole secular life cycle thinking is very, very weak. And yet that's where you drive value. So education and training also is contributing to this context. I've got lots of stories from my experience in terms of how engineers operate, including my own. So what do I conclude? The systems imperative is such that there has to be this recognition that resilient and sustainable infrastructure cannot be achieved through fragmented action. It requires integration. It requires feedback loops. It requires adaptive systems. It requires socio-technical understanding. It requires governance. It requires finance, technology, engineering, as well as community needs to be treated as part of one connected infrastructure ecosystem. Systems engineering helps. It helps us ask better questions, such as where are the interdependencies? Where are the failure points going to come from? Where are the feedback loops? And who owns the interfaces? What happens after construction? Those are the kind of questions that arise when you embrace systems thinking. So this brings us to the future of engineering profession. As I indicated, the engineer of the future must remain technically competent, of course. There is no substitute for technical excellence. But the engineer of the future must become more than a technical expert. The engineer must become an integrator, an orchestrator, a systems leader, a life cycle strategist, and a human systems coordinator. So the engineer must understand the design, but also the operations, technology, but also the institutions within which the technology will be deployed. Must understand the climate risk, but also the social vulnerability that will arise, the finance, including the life cycle cost thereof. Because Africa does not simply need more infrastructure. Africa needs infrastructure that will be able to perform, infrastructure that lasts, infrastructure that adapts, and infrastructure that will be able to support industrialization, the infrastructure that strengthens the communities. Vice Chancellor, this conversation has direct implications for the universities and your university. It has a crucial role in preparing the next generation of engineers. We must continue producing the graduates who are technically strong, but we must also produce graduates who can work across disciplines. Graduates who understand infrastructure, not in isolation, but as a system. Graduates who can work with communities and policymakers, technologists, planners, and asset managers. Graduates who can ask not only whether a solution is technically feasible, but whether it is sustainable, resilient, inclusive, as well as contextually appropriate. The university of the future must not only produce engineers who can solve equations. It must produce engineers who can solve complex societal problems. For our governments and policy makers, Honorable Minister, I think policy choices determine whether infrastructure is planned for short-term visibility or long-term value. Budgeting choices determine whether maintenance is protected or deferred. Procurement choices determine whether life cycle performance is rewarded, actually, or ignored. Governance choices determine whether institutions cooperate or operate in silos. And I'm happy that I heard it from your own voice that you are against and you want to break these silos. Therefore, public leadership is central to the system's imperative. If we want infrastructure that lasts, we must govern for the long term. If we want resilient infrastructure, we must invest before failure. If we want sustainable infrastructure, we must measure value beyond just the construction completion, something that most of us are just focused on. And if we want public trust, infrastructure must deliver reliable services to communities. So to all of us, the systems imperative also challenges us in terms of how we define professional competence, especially those of us who are in academia and the registration councils. The public depends on engineers not only to design safe structures, but to protect long-term public value. Professional engineering must therefore increasingly include life cycle thinking, systems integration, resilience, sustainability, digital competence, ethics, as well as public safety and the social technical responsibility. The engineer's duty is not only to the client, it is to the society, it is to the future user, it is to the environment and the future generations to come. That is why the regulation and development of engineering professions must continue evolving with the complexity of the world we serve and must not remain stuck and just block registrations as we have seen on the continent. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of Africa will not be determined only by how much infrastructure we build. It will be determined by how intelligently our infrastructure systems perform. And institutions that work together rather than in isolation. Let me close with this thought. Africa's future will not be secured by building more infrastructure alone. It will be secured by engineering infrastructure systems that perform, that adapt, integrate, and sustain value across generations. That is my systems imperative. That is the new engineering responsibility. And that is the opportunity that we have before us. Thank you very much.
University of Business and the Power Transit MUBAS, Associate Professor Nancy Chitela. And I'll also ask you, Madam, that after your speech, you are going to invite the Minister so that she also delivers her speech. And after your speech, Honorable Minister, you are going to cut that ribbon over there for us to symbolize the launch of our engineering journal. Thank you, Madam Vice Chancellor.
Before I start my speech, Honorable Minister, allow me to appreciate the keynote speaker this morning. What has been shared with us, it's very profound and very fundamental. And there's one statement that I've taken from everything that you have said. And the statement is, I would also replace Africa with Malawi. Malawi does not lack infrastructure, and it does not lack infrastructure investment. What we need to find out is, what does it lack? There are a lot of things that have been said, but the thing is, what do we lack? And therefore, my assignment to the ED of engineering and the chair of this organizing committee, the organizing committee for this particular conference, we need action points from the keynote that we've been given today. It will be a waste, allow me to say this word, if we don't take lessons and come up with something, whether it can be one single thing, whatever, from this keynote speaker, from this keynote address that we've received today. And so I would be expecting to see that action point from the ED, as well as the chair of the organizing committee of this conference. Thank you very much, Prof. Musonda. Thank you. So engineering for the future. That's what I want to say. Thank you. Distinguished guests of honor, Honorable Dr. Jean Matanga, MP, Minister of Energy and Mining, the Secretary for Energy and Mining, Mr. Elvis Todi, the University Registrar, Mr. Lloyd Kambwiri, our keynote speaker, Professor Innocent Musonda, all MUBAS executive deans here present and heads of academic departments, the industry captains here present, the chairperson of the organizing committee for this particular conference, Associate Professor Ignacio Ngoma and your committee, all conference participants, members of staff here present, all the students here present, all conference participants, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Our honorable guests of honor, it is my great pleasure this morning to warmly welcome you to this third School of Engineering conference here at Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences. Allow me to join the ED for the School of Engineering to say that we are very excited, especially when we heard that you had accepted our invitation. It was a joy for us because we knew that our conference and whatever is going to happen here is going to have an impact. You know, the impact, the attention that somebody gets, it also depends on who attends that particular function. And therefore, we know that just your presence with us today, this has gotten the attention that it needs for the nation to listen. Thank you very much for your presence. And so I also welcome all of you to this conference. We don't take your presence for granted. We know that we are here because you are here. If you were not here, this conference could not have been here today. So thank you very much and feel welcome. And we are deeply honored by your presence, and we are so grateful that you have joined us for this important gathering of scholars, researchers, innovators, industry leaders, and policymakers. Your participation reflects a shared commitment to advancing engineering solutions that can transform our nation and continent. And let me emphasize on the engineering solutions. This is our third conference. I don't know whether through the chair of the organizing committee, we have had reflections on the past two conferences that we've had. What is the impact that we can say today? Is there a single thing that we can point at that during the first conference, this happened, and we took this thing, and we implemented this, and here we are today? What about during the second conference? And what about this third conference? Why I'm saying so is if we want to advance engineering solutions, but when we gather like this, we don't get any action points from this, then how are we going to get those engineering solutions for our nation? We need to come up with something. It should not just be like a ritual that every year we do the conference. But at the end of the day, what is the benefit of this particular conference? And that's why at the very beginning I said I had an assignment, or I have an assignment for the ED Engineering and the chair of the organizing committee. What is our take-off point, and what is it that we're going to do on the ground? There are so many things that I've learned from this, including our curriculum, the way we teach. What are we teaching for the future, or are we teaching for today? What is it that we are doing on the ground? And at MUBAS, as we all know, our vision, we want to be an inclusive, we want to be an engaged, entrepreneurial, innovative, and research-intensive university. And that's why we have this particular conference. And our mission is to advance knowledge, professional competences, and innovation through outstanding teaching, research, consultancy, outreach, and engagement with industry and stakeholders in useful and impactful ways. Let me quote that in useful and impactful ways. And I remember very well when we were coming up with this strategic plan, there was a team which says, no, we just stop at and stakeholders, and then we put the full stop there. But we said we want to be different. And so for us to be different, we cannot stop at the stakeholders. We have to add in a useful and impactful ways. It was deliberate to include those particular ways. And we would want to see this impact on the development of our nation and beyond. And that is where our motto, the university motto, came from, the innovate, create, and generate, because that's what we want to drive. And therefore, this conference, especially with the keynote address that have been given today, embodies that motto in a practical way. And we just have to do it. We have no choice. So as engineers, researchers, and innovators, you are here to innovate by developing new ideas, technologies that respond to the challenges facing our society. You are here to create solutions, you are here to create systems, and you are here to create infrastructure that improves lives and strengthens industries, not just for today, but for the future. That's what we want, and that's where innovation comes in. And above all, you are here to generate knowledge, partnerships, enterprises, and opportunities that can drive sustainable socio-economic transformation. That's what we want to see. Our guests of honor and distinguished delegates, the conference theme says integrated engineering innovations for industrialization and sustainable infrastructure. This theme speaks directly to the aspirations of Malawi 2063 and the national agenda for industrialization and economic growth. Engineering remains central to the development of resilient infrastructure, energy systems, manufacturing capacity, mining, transport, and technological advancement. Honorable Minister, at MUBAS, we believe that universities must not only produce graduates, but they must also become active engines of national development. And that's what we're actually doing on the ground. So, and this is why our strategic pillars focus on teaching and learning. They also focus on research and consultancy. They focus on innovation and entrepreneurship, industry engagement, and community outreach. And our emphasis, in addition to our mandate of teaching and learning, we want to innovate, we want to create, we want to generate. And we want to be a university that focuses on entrepreneurship so that together we grow with our nation. So the School of Engineering continues to demonstrate leadership in this regard. And therefore I commend the Executive Dean, Professor Bernard Nkandawire, the organizing committee, which is led by Associate Professor Ignacio Ngoma, and the entire school for successfully hosting this conference for the third consecutive year. However, in the fourth conference, which will be next year, we are going to start with a reflection of this conference and the changes that we have brought into the system from what we have learned and discussed this year. The innovations, the ideas that we're going to discuss and come up and share here will have to show what we have done, how it has helped us come next conference. Because I'm saying this because the continuity and growth of this conference will demonstrate the commitment to research excellency, to innovation and knowledge dissemination. I'm also delighted that this occasion coincides with the launch of the School of Engineering. As a university, we are encouraging all our schools to strengthen research publication as well as dissemination, because knowledge generation is at the heart of academic excellency and national transformation. Our guest of honor, allow me to appreciate our Professor Grant Kurulanga for the vision that he had on this particular journal, and that today it has come to pass is a very big milestone for us all. And you might wish to know, our honorable guest, that Professor Kurulanga is my mentor and has been our mentor. We've worked with him for more than 10 years. I was his deputy, and he mentored me for those 10 years. So some of the traits that you see right now, it's what he contributed. Thank you very much. So Professor Kurulanga, we appreciate you and your contributions. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, MUBAS is also taking practical steps to contribute to Malawi's development agenda through initiatives such as MUBAS Commercial Limited and its subsidiaries. We have the Woodtech, the Inch Belt, we have the mining, as well as the agricultural mechanization project. This agricultural mechanization project, as we mentioned, Honorable Minister, that is being funded by through the public sector investment program. And we believe that will not be the same through this project in the next 2-3 years to come. And these initiatives, Honorable Minister, reflect our determination to bridge academia, innovation, and industry while reducing dependence on government subventions. As we gather over the course of this conference, I encourage all participants to engage meaningfully, share ideas openly. Let's challenge one another. Okay, let's move on. Let's think differently. Let's try to do some things that nobody else have ever done before. We go beyond if we want to develop. Let us use this platform to generate practical solutions that respond to the needs of our communities and industry. Once again, I welcome you all to MUBAS and wish you a fruitful deliberations and a successful conference. Honorable Minister, yesterday I asked the organizing team whether the secretary for the mining, the energy and mining is coming. I was told that he is not coming, and therefore you will do the honors of inviting the Honorable Minister to come and speak. This morning, around 7:45, I got a call to say, no, the secretary is coming. And so I asked, in that particular case, then government protocol requires that the secretary for the Minister of Energy and Mining invites the Honorable Minister to come to and speak, open this particular conference, as well as launch the School of Engineering channel. Honorable Minister, allow me at this juncture to invite the Secretary for Energy and Mining to do the honors. Thank you very much.
The guest of honor, the Minister of Energy and Mining, Honorable Dr. Jane Matanga, MP, the Vice Chancellor of MUBAS, Professor Nancy Chitera, the dean, the executive dean of the School of Engineering, Dr. Nkandawire, the organizing committee of this conference, ladies and gentlemen. My humble responsibility this morning is to respectably request the Honorable Minister to address us and formally open this important conference, as well as officially launch the journal. Allow me at this point in time to humbly request the guest of honor to deliver her speech and officially launch the conference, as well as officially launch the conference, as well as officially open the conference, as well as launch the important engineering journal. You forgive me, I've just been taken unawares. Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Minister, Madam.
Thank you very much. For a moment, allow me to wear my other hat, that of a politician. So in politics, we don't start our business without reciting a slogan. So allow me to use your own. MUBAS, whoa. Thank you so much. Thank you. The Vice Chancellor of the Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences, Associate Professor Nancy Chitera, the keynote speaker, Professor Innocent Musonda, all the way from Johannesburg, the Executive Dean of the School of Engineering, Associate Professor Barnett Mkandawire, the conference chairperson, Associate Professor Ignacio Ngoma, Professor Kulanga, members of the University Management and Senate, the University Chaplain, Pastor Salima, distinguished academics and researchers, the Secretary for Energy and Mining, Mr. Elvis Todi, captains of the industry and development partners, our dear students, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Thank you. Barack Obama, when he was addressing the British Parliament, and he got to the podium, and before he started his speech, he said that, let me quote him, after recognizing the protocols, he said, he had known no greater honors than that of speaking to the Mother of Parliaments, which was the British Parliament. And he said, he realized that before him that moment, he had heard that there were three great people that had stood at that podium, and these were, the first one was the Pope, and the second was Her Majesty the Queen, and the third to speak, to address that distinguished house was Nelson Mandela. Now he said that should have been either a very high bar set or the beginning of a very funny joke. I realize that okay, I've just been told that this is the third time that you're holding this conference. And I realized that before me, there must have been great men, great minds in academia that have stood on this podium. So, and these are great men, great minds in engineering, great technical minds. And now you have allowed a politician to come and stand here. I'm just hoping this is not the beginning of a very funny joke. Thank you so much. It is both an honor and a privilege for me to join you this morning at this important and timely conference hosted by the Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences. Allow me from the outset to commend the School of Engineering and the university leadership for organizing the conference under the theme Integrated Engineering Innovations for Industrialization and Sustainable Infrastructure. This theme is highly relevant to Malawi's national development aspirations and resonates strongly with the government's strategic priorities as articulated under the Malawi 2063 vision and the fiscal 10-year implementation plan. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the government of Malawi recognizes that no country can attain meaningful industrialization, economic transformation, or sustainable development without deliberate investment in science, engineering, technology, energy, infrastructure, and innovation. It is for this reason that the government continues to prioritize, 1, expansion and modernization of energy infrastructure. 2, development of transport and digital connectivity systems, industrialization and value addition, human capital development, responsible development of the mining sector as a catalyst for economic diversification and inclusive growth. I think recently you must have listened to many stories that the ministry has told about mining, that it is now time that we give attention to mining, because that's the way to go. So as the ministry responsible for energy and mining, we remain committed to creating an enabling environment that supports investment, innovation, industrial productivity, and sustainable exploitation of natural resources. In the energy sector, government has embarked on ambitious reforms and infrastructure expansion programs aimed at increasing electricity access from the current 25% to 70% by 2030, with 30% from the national grid connections and 40% from off-grid connections. And this is pursued through the following: 1, expansion of our generation capacity. Currently, as we all know, we do not generate enough for our consumption. So we have to give attention to this. We should upscale our generation capacity. Secondly, promotion of renewable energy solutions. Third, strengthening regional power interconnections. We should be commissioning our interconnector with the Southern Africa Power Pool, and we're doing that this coming July. We are connecting through Mozambique, and the first uptake will be 50 megawatt, but there's room for us to upscale that. And we are also improving energy security and reliability. In the mining sector, government is implementing strategic reforms intended to unlock the full potential of the sector. and ensure that mineral resources contribute meaningfully to the national development. And these reforms include the following. One, strengthening the legal and regulatory framework. Formalization of artisanal and small-scale mining. Enhancing transparency and accountability in the sector. Combating illegal mining and mineral smuggling. Promoting value addition and mineral beneficiation. And lastly, encouraging responsible and environmentally sustainable mining practices. I'm happy to learn that the School of Engineering is giving attention to mining in the lab and many other sectors. So this is time that we work together, we collaborate to make sure that we now realize the fruits that this country is holding. Malawi is endowed with a lot of mineral resources, but as a country, we did not give attention to this. Rightly so. I think our minds were wired towards something different. We are more into agriculture, which is a good thing, yes. But there is also another route, which is mining. And time is now for us to make sure that we realize from what we are holding as a nation. Distinguished participants, the role of institutions such as MUBAS in advancing this national agenda cannot be overemphasized. Universities are not merely centers for academic institutions, just to quote our keynote speaker. They are strategic national assets for research, innovation, industrial problem solving, technology development, and policy support. And I must thank our keynote speaker. You have challenged us as a government to make sure that I think we turn the microscopes to our, towards our policies in infrastructure. What is it that we are doing as a government? And that will do. So the government therefore expects higher learning institutions to produce practical solutions capable of addressing the developmental challenges facing our country. I'm therefore pleased to note that this conference has brought together researchers and students to deliberate on critical issues affecting infrastructure development, engineering innovation, energy systems, mining, ICT, artificial intelligence, water, sanitation, and environmental sustainability. These are not isolated sectors. They are interconnected pillars of national transformation. The sub-theme of this conference clearly demonstrates an appreciation of the multidisciplinary approach required to drive industrialization and sustainable development in Malawi. I'm particularly pleased that apart from this important conference, we are also witnessing the official launch of the MUBAS Engineering Journal. This journal is a commendable initiative that will provide an important platform for promoting research, innovation, and engineering solutions that can contribute to the country's industrialization and sustainable development agenda. My take home on the on what Dr. Kulanga shared with us on the journal is the opportunity that this journal is going to give to the visibility of local innovations. There's a lot that is happening in this country. There's a lot that this university is doing, but how much is known outside there? We should not look down on ourselves. We can do it. We've been doing it and we can do it. And I think what needs to be done more is to make sure that the world knows what we are capable of doing. It is important that we do that. And on behalf of government, I'd like to commend what this university is doing. And all that we can do is just to support you, to make sure that you move from where you are to somewhere. And we'll make sure that there is collaboration with some of our institutions, like the Geological Survey and others. We need to work together. I therefore commend MUBAS School of Engineering and all stakeholders involved in the establishment of this important publication. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as government, we are also encouraged by the growing emphasis, I'll repeat this, by the growing emphasis on innovation, applied research and technological solutions emerging from this institution. In the current national budget, government allocated 3 billion Malawi kwacha towards the MUBAS mechanization agenda in recognition of the institution's strategic role in supporting industry, agriculture modernization, and technological advancement. However, investment alone is not sufficient. There is need for stronger collaboration between academia, government, industry, and the private sector to ensure that research outputs are translated into practical solutions, commercial innovations, industrial applications, and evidence-based public policy. These universities have been there for a while. Research has been done. We have done everything. All we are doing now is just advancing from where we were. But I think what is key now is to make sure that whatever we are doing now turns into practical solutions. I was in Zomba yesterday. Our Department of Geological Surveys has been there since 1922. And they've been doing research. They've been in the field since 1922 to date. But I just want to make you angry. They've been doing this for the mining sector. But how much does the mining sector contribute to our GDP? Currently, it's only 1%. And we have been in the field doing research, desk work for all these years. I think it should anger us. It's time now that we realize all these fruits from the research that we have been doing, from all the works that we have been doing on paper. And as a government, we have planned, at least in mining, to make sure by 2030, we should move from the current 1% to at least 10%. Then we'll begin to call ourselves a country on the move. However, I must say that research findings must not remain confined to conference proceedings. I think I've said this once and again, or they shouldn't just remain in our shelves. It is time that they must translate into action and directly affect national productivity and industrial competitiveness, infrastructure resilience, and socioeconomic transformation. I therefore encourage researchers and innovators gathered here to focus on producing solutions that are practical, scalable, commercially viable, environmentally sustainable, and responsive to Malawi's developmental priorities. And to our dear students present this morning, allow me to say this. Malawi's future industrial transformation will depend significantly on your creativity, discipline, innovation, and technical competence. We are doing this not to get white-collar jobs. I think what should be at our minds is that how am I going to contribute to our national agenda? The country needs engineers, scientists, innovators, and entrepreneurs who are prepared to solve real national problems and compete effectively at both regional and global levels. Take your studies seriously, embrace research, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And I'm glad to learn that entrepreneurship is key on your agenda as a university, and that's the way to go. So develop the mindset of creators and solution providers. I want to salute you for the innovation that you've put in place, and this is the Uniport. This is the way to go. Let's meet, let's make sure that we harvest everything that is out there and come up with solutions for the country. Government remains committed to supporting the development of skills, institutions, laboratories, and innovation ecosystems necessary to prepare you for that responsibility. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, let me once again commend MUBAS and the School of Engineering for organizing this important conference. This is very important, and I encourage you to keep on innovating. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my sincere hope that the deliberations over the next few days will generate actionable recommendations, strengthen partnerships, and contribute meaningfully towards Malawi's industry and sustainable infrastructure agenda. As a parent ministry for utility companies that are the biggest beneficiaries of the products of this university, I want to applaud the work that you continue to do as MUBAS. We are beneficiaries of your products, and we are able to thrive because of what you have done as the university. So thank you so much for the work that you have done in this country. Before I conclude, let me say that I hope this is not the last time that you've invited me to come and be with you. I'm looking forward to coming around to see what you're doing in the lab. You've shared a lot with us, the labs, the workshops and whatnot. I would be more than happy to come around and see with my own eyes what you're doing. And whatever I can do as a minister responsible for a Minister of Energy and Mining, let me do that. I am ready to do that, to make sure that all the support that you need to advance a mining agenda or anything to do with engineering and touching on my ministry, I'm there to offer that support. With these remarks, it is now my singular honor and privilege to officially declare the third MUBAS School of Engineering Conference officially open. And I'm sure I can take this opportunity as well to officially launch the School of Engineering Journal, the advancement in engineering, science, and technology. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. As I stated earlier, now you proceed to cut the ribbon for us, symbolizing the launch of the journal. And thereafter, the Vice Chancellor has a little something for you, our guest of honor. PS, but also our keynote speaker. Thank you very much. May I now request you, our guest of honor, Honorable Minister, so that you take your walk to the front of the building where we are going to have a group photograph together with the PS, our Vice Chancellor, University Registrar, Executive Deans, our keynote speaker, the conference chair, Professor Kulanga, all executive deans and heads of department. So we shall proceed to the front of the building, and thereafter the minister and PS and the Vice Chancellor will proceed to the boardroom for refreshments, and the rest of us will have our refreshments just outside the lecture theater. Thank you.